I knew that soon I would meet Sienna Shaw and all her family and friends, and I would have to save Allie and her mother from their brutal murder. In my opinion, Allie's murder in the movies was the most brutal murder I had seen in the Terrifier movies, so I wanted to stop it from happening and destroy Art if possible. And then I went into my soundproof room with Kate Beckinsale and I said, "You can drop the act because no one can hear us in here. You sent that sick fuck Art the clown after me to kill me with a god-killing pistol, a weapon that you knew could probably kill me." And then I showed her my eyes and they glowed bright red and I said, "How dare you? You know what I am and you know who I am, and that's what bothers me. You were still willing to do it, but then I saw something. You tried to stop my car because for the first time in a long time you felt human emotions, and you're not the only demon that's done things like that for me." And then she showed me her real eyes and she said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know that I would fall in love with you. I'm so sorry, please forgive me." And then I said, "It's fine, don't worry, but I want you to stay in that body forever if you can." And then she smiled and said, "You like it, don't you?" And then I said, "Yes ma'am, I definitely love that body you chose." And then she said, "She's very pretty. I like my new vessel too because it reminds me of my sister that died many years ago." And then I asked her, "How did you end up in hell?" And then she said, "I like doing bad things to people." And then I said, "Well, since you want to stay with me, that stops now, but you can kill really evil people anytime you want to." And then she asked me, "Really, you will let me do that?" And then I said, "Of course, darling, but no more killing innocent people, okay?" And then she said, "Okay, I knew there was a reason I liked you." And then I asked her, "So you are the pale girl, are you any relation to the pale man?" And then she said, "Yes, I was actually the pale man also, but I was always a girl. I've been to a lot of different earths and each time I was reborn as a beautiful adult woman a lot of times, but I was also reincarnated as a man many times, and since I looked like a clown with a pale white face, most of the time people called me the pale man, and I'm where that legend came from because I also have the powers to transform myself into a big demon that eats people." And then I said, "Very interesting, so you're also the pale man?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "That makes sense." And I said, "From now on you kill and eat only bad people, and you can also help me kill monsters too." And then she said, "Oh, how wonderful." And I said, "No dressing like a clown either, but you can dress like a clown on my birthday, or you can get a job as a party clown if you want. Just don't kill any innocent people, and also make sure no one sees you killing anyone, and if they do, just use your magical powers to erase their memories." And then she said, "Oh damn it, I never thought of that before." And then I said, "Yes, never forget to do that again, you know, just in case an innocent person seen you killing anyone." And then I said, "Now that we got all of that unpleasant stuff out of the way, I don't need to tell you that at some point you and I are going to have to deal with Art the clown, and you're going to have to send him back to hell, or I could do it for you, but then your powers would be in hell, so you might want to take your powers back before I do all that, because I'm going to need to go somewhere else to stop him from killing more innocent people again, and yes, I have to leave again today to clean up your mess, so please don't let this nonsense happen again or you will make me very angry, and trust me, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry." And then my eyes glowed bright red, and then she said, "I'm going with you." And then I said, "No, for now you stay here, I will deal with him myself. I'm just going to kill him because I enjoy it a little too much, Kate." And then she smiled at me and said, "You like killing him?" And then I said, "Yes ma'am, I definitely love killing him because he deserves it. You will understand once you start killing evil why I enjoyed it so much, because you get far better pleasure out of killing a predator, not sheep or cattle." And then I smirked and said, "It's more of a challenge to kill evil people because they fight to the death." And then she smirked and said, "Okay, I finally understand now." And then I said to Kate, "You can sense evil, all you need to do is seek them out to kill them." And then I walked up to her and I kissed her passionately, and I had sex with her again before I went to Sienna Shaw's hometown to save her along with all her family and friends. And then I actually used my helicopter to go there so I could get there faster than Art the clown. And then I went to the people I knew that Art the clown would target first. I went to Allie's house and I watched Art the clown break in her house, and I said, "You sick bastard." And then before he could harm Allie, I stepped in front of him after he cut her leg a bit.